I'm Eric Parker. This morning on CT23. What will it take to keep scenes like these from continuing to play out across America? Senator Chris Murphy weighs in on what happened in Nashville. We'll also be asking him about his reservations regarding AI, artificial intelligence. Industry leaders have just called for a slowdown on that technology. And with the NCAA championship coming up tomorrow, we're talking about his push for international student athletes to have the same NIL opportunities as those from the U.S. Also this morning, Hartford Mayor Luke Bronin joins us, telling us what he hopes to accomplish in the final months of his administration. Plus, the Norwich woman being recognized by USA Today for her work battling bullying. It's all ahead this first Sunday of April. CT23 starts right now.
From Channel 3, CT23 with Eric Parker.
We begin this morning with Senator Chris Murphy, who's joining us from Washington, D.C. We had so much to talk to him about, but we want to start with what happened this past week in Nashville. Senator, thank you for being with us. I feel like we every time we get you on our show, we say the same thing. We've seen another mass shooting. There have been calls for an assault weapons ban, and then some of your colleagues on Capitol Hill were wearing pins with almost the same weapon that was used in the Nashville shooting days later. So what do you do about this?
Well, and listen, thanks for having me on. I think it's really important for us all to remember that, well, the nation is rightly seized on this issue when there's a mass shooting like the horrific one we saw in Nashville. Every single day, there's 100 people dying of gun violence. In Connecticut, I live just south of downtown in a neighborhood that is regularly plagued by gun violence. When I talk to kids in the south end of Hartford, they want to talk to me about one thing, and it's their walk to and from school, how unsafe they feel outside of school, never mind how they feel inside of school. And so we've got to make this a priority every single day, not just in the wake of these mass shootings. We obviously had a breakthrough last year. We passed the first gun safety measure in 30 years through the Senate. It helped states adopt red flag laws. Query, if Tennessee had a red flag law, it's very possible it could have been used to take guns away from this, very troubled young woman. Connecticut has a red flag law, and now we have some federal funding to help us make it even stronger. So we'll continue to push to change the laws of this nation. Obviously, I want to get these assault weapons off the street, but we've made progress, and I think we are slowly turning the corner so that common sense gun laws finally get a fair hearing in Washington.
I do want to cover a lot of topics, so I'm going to move right along to artificial intelligence. You made a big splash on social media when you said ChatGPT had taught itself to do advanced chemistry. You said something is coming, we aren't ready. A lot of pushback from tech people who said you used all the words in the wrong order or something, but you stood by your point saying we're not ready.
Yeah, I mean, it was kind of wild, how defensive the tech community was. Maybe taught isn't the right word. I mean, I get it. AI is not a human being. I'm not worried about it becoming sentient and taking over humanity. But I was so scared at the reaction that the tech community, had to my, very simple question as to whether this country is ready, because I just don't think we are. I mean, you're talking about a massive outsourcing of basic human functions to machines, creation, conversation. And when that happens, there's got to be real consequences for the sort of moral soul of the nation. Never mind all the really insidious things that can occur, these deep fakes, the fact that with a click of a button, you can impersonate anybody, a public figure, your friend. So I just think we have to step back and, decide how we stimulate all the good things that can happen from AI while protecting us against some of the really insidious things that can happen. And the fact that I dipped my sort of toe in the water about regulating AI and got such blowback tells me that there's probably a lot of people out there that are hoping to make billions of dollars off of unregulated AI. I don't necessarily think that's the direction we should head in.
Well, some people put out a letter this past week, and two of them already have billions of dollars. Elon Musk, Steve Wozniak from Apple, saying they think there should be a 6-month pause at least on any new technology beyond ChatGPT-4. Is that a good start? Do you support that?
Undoubtedly, we have to slow this down. It took, 4 years for Facebook to acquire 100 million users. ChatGPT had 100 million users in 2 months. This is moving too fast. We all need an ability to take a breath and try to understand what the really dangerous rough edges of AI are. before we all sort of leap into this new world. So I haven't read that letter, but I identify with its sentiments. We got to slow this down a little bit.
Now, another big issue that you've been outspoken about is college athletics and NIL and the ability for some of these stars to make some money off their name, image, and likeness. But an issue that was raised during this March Madness tournament is that stars like our own Adama Sanogo, Dorka Juhas, some people here as athletes from other countries aren't able to participate in this. So what should be done about that?
Well, first of all, we're looking into legislation that will allow international athletes, and as you mentioned, we have a lot of them at UConn, to be able to do endorsement deals. But I actually don't think that this status quo is acceptable. The only way you can make money as an athlete is off of endorsement deals. Listen, the college sports industry right now is a $16 billion industry, and tons of adults, coaches, shoe company executives, TV broadcast CEOs, they're making billions off of these kids' free labor. I think we've got to come up with a fair way to share revenue in the big time profit making sports between the adults and the kids, so that the only avenue the kids have is not just these endorsement deals. So that's the direction I hope we take, is to give these kids some share, some small reasonable share of the profits, and not force them to go out and sign, sometimes unsavory endorsement deals as the only way that they can help put food on the table for their family.
But certainly in the system we have now, the fact that Paige Beckers has multi-million-dollar deals and Aaliyah Edwards, a Canadian, does not, has to be some kind of fix there, right? Is there something that can be done?
Yeah, and right now we're looking into whether that can be done simply through changes the administration announces, or whether we need legislation. But there's a fundamental unfairness when it comes to how international athletes are treated. And, I think this matters to UConn because, going all the way back to Nadav Hennefeld, we've had a long history of international players coming and, making our schools and our teams better.
I want to also ask you about this Wall Street Journal poll that was out recently. It was about what's important to Americans. And some people called the findings somewhat startling. Patriotism important to only 38%. In 1998, 70% said patriotism was important. Religion, raising children, also down. The only thing that went up since 98 was money. It went up from 31% to 43%. So as one of the people crafting the path forward for our nation, what do you make of that?
So I'm so worried about the findings in that poll, but it squares with, sort of what you feel, which is a country that used to sort of properly balance individuality and individualism with concern for the common good, turning into a country that really prioritizes individual success and achievement above our collective health. And I think, social media drives that. There's a kind of narcissism that you learn on social media, a sort of celebrity culture on social media that I don't think is healthy for society, and I don't think is healthy in the hands of our teenagers. So a lot of the parents in the Senate right now are having a conversation about how we not only look at regulating AI, but regulating social media to try to make sure that kids get a chance to think about those broader ideas of selflessness and patriotism and common good, instead of being so focused on wealth attainment and individual success, the kind of values that too often you see glamorized on social media.
We're almost out of time, but you mentioned earlier living in the south end of Hartford and interacting with that community. I know you've lived in different places around the state during your time as Connecticut senator, but from that experience, have you taken anything back to your work in Washington?
Yeah, and admittedly, I split my time between Washington and Hartford, and so I'm not sort of living in the South End like the kids I'm talking about are. But I just think on this question of exposure to violence, I've just learned that this is really polluting the brains of our kids, that they are going through a trauma, regardless of whether they get shot or their brother or sister ever gets shot. That fear is making them unable to learn when they show up to school. And I think I have a newfound appreciation of that, as every single night I listen to the ambulances whiz by my house. I get the chance to meet with these kids. That's something that I have taken from this experience, only living in that neighborhood for a few years, to the work I'm doing in Washington.
Well, we are all out of time, Senator Chris Murphy. I was going to try to pin you down and get you to declare for re-election in 2024, but that'll have to wait till the next time you're on. We appreciate you being with us here on CT23.
Right,
we'll see you next time. Coming up later in our Sunday Spotlight, national recognition for the good work a woman in Norwich is doing. And up next, Hartford Mayor Luke Bronin joins me in Studio A. He just gave his final State of the City speech. We'll talk about what he hopes to accomplish as he finishes his time leading the capital city.